getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Rossi. I'm getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Rossi. Well, I'm lumped up, but I'm okay. It's gonna get lumped up anyway. You better call back the posse. Just getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Rossi. Getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Rossi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the RockerMike and Rob Presents Show.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Yeah. Today we have author Don Henze, who wrote this fantastic book called Roger Daltrey and the Bright Shiny Object.
It's right there on the screen
Right
for people
there on
to
the
see.
screen. And we're going to interview Mr. Henze today. And, you know, Don, I got to ask you right off the bat, what made you write this book? Wow.
I mean, this book wrote me first, you know.
Tell us about it.
You know, it's interesting because I don't think I would have written a book unless Heather Daltrey told me I needed to write a book.
Wow.
I knew her for about 20 minutes, and she said to me, she said, Don, you will write a book someday, and it will all be in the book. And I was sitting at a table in her kitchen at Holmeshurst Manor, Roger's house and Heather's house, at a table, a long rustic wooden table. And I realized later that at that table, probably half of the rock legends in the world had at one time or another sat at that table talking with Heather. And she had told me, before she told me I need to write a book, because she was very interested in stories about me growing up, because I grew up in a haunted house for real. And she wanted to, I thought, well, maybe this stuff's a little too weird for her. And she kept asking me question after question after question about my life and what was your mother like? And there's nothing she didn't want to hear, nothing she couldn't handle. And after I told her all about my life growing up as a kid, a little kid, she said, it'll all be in your book someday, she said. And that really planted the seed.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Let me give a little background for the people that don't know, okay? But Don, you've been a musician for many years, okay? And you got involved with Roger Daltrey in the early 90s. And, you know, you were supposed to be on one of his solo albums. You were...
Well, I was. I did sing on it.
Yeah, no, you did. You did sing on it.
I sang on the hit song, the one hit song on the album.
Right. Which is called what?
Days of Light.
Days of Light, right.
My part, and we did it in the Beatles room at Abbey Road.
Right.
Roger was standing right next to me, and then the producer,
amazing.
Gerard McMann, and my part, can I do it quick?
Yeah.
It went... So
awesome, man. Awesome. Okay. Now you're in New York, you're pretty much a New York guy, okay? And you were a struggling musician at this point, and you got connected with Roger, and
really struggling.
Well, I know you were couch hopping.
Couch hopping,
according to the book, okay?
Living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
Damn.
Tell us how you got connected with Roger Daltrey of The Who.
This is fascinating.
This is fascinating to me.
Well, I was playing drums for Gerard McMann, and people know Gerard. he wrote that song "Cry Little Sister" for Lost Boys, and
Right, the Lost
yes.
Boys soundtrack.
Cry,
Right.
little sister.
That was such a great song at the time.
That song, that vampire song.
Yeah.
Right.
He gets sometimes they'll pick it up for ringtones, and he tells me he gets a check for $100,000. This is 5 years ago.
Amazing.
And then Marilyn Manson covered it not
Yes,
too long
he did.
ago. And
Motherfucker.
he made his whole life. Talk about that one hit song. He's really now he goes to vampire festivals. But I was playing drums for Gerard in 1990 and 1991, and people in the East Village, the record companies were coming. In particular, Ronnie Vance, the president of Geffen Records, would come to our shows. So Gerard was saying,
Oh my God,
any day now, any day we're getting a record deal. We're going on the road. I've been going up to Geffen. I'm signing this deal. And Don, you're going to be my drummer. I'm going to pay you when you go on the road. And a week turns into a month. Months go by. And next thing you know, a year goes by. And I'm playing for Gerard for free. And there's no record deal. But, it's not necessarily Gerard's fault. The record business at that point in the late 80s or early 90s had just begun. It's really the beginning. It was deep into the beginning stages of the great decline of the music business, as I see it. And so everybody in the band, we played some really good players. Sean Solomon, who is Ron Wood's bass player. The guy was one of the great bass players in the world.
Exactly.
With Gerard and Mark Gray, the keyboard player, who was the Brecker Brothers keyboard player, a monster keyboard player. You guys look like twins down there, by the way. Are you guys related?
No,
we're lumped up.
we've been drinking.
I swear, you look.
Drinking the
If
same
you wore the same glasses and the hat, you look like twins. But let me, so Gerard said his promise that a record deal was coming through and that we'd go on tour and I'd make a fabulous living once we went on the road. It was not happening, and I was running out of money. I had a little money saved from a lawsuit. I was falsely arrested while working as a car jockey. For a North Shore car leasing company that went out of business because they were a cocaine racket. So I was doing some things in that car that I didn't know I was doing, and transporting things. Because when you jockey the car, you pick up somebody's Porsche, you bring it over here, you pick this up, and I'm always driving some other car, and everybody in this leasing company was arrested and put in jail for it was a cocaine. It was shouldn't really talk about it. I said I was never going to talk about this in public.
Yes, it's okay.
So
nobody watches this
I
anyway.
got falsely arrested. That's another story. Doing my job as a car jockey for this leasing company, and I actually got a check for $24,000. And I said I'm going to give it one more year to make it in music. And that year was running out, and Gerard's record deals were not coming through. And then Gerard says Roger Daltrey wants me to produce his record, his solo record. And Don, you're going to play drums on it.
Wow.
Nobody believed him. I didn't believe him.
You didn't believe it. It never happened.
Well, he said that he was in talks with Roger all spring of 1991. And we were still playing shows, showcasing in the East Village, all these great little clubs in the East Village that are gone now. So most of them are gone. But so
was
all of a sudden,
was Nightingale's one of them?
We were playing at Ludlow Cafe.
Ludlow Cafe.
Street.
Wow.
What was it? The 7th Street Cafe or something? There's one right on 7th Street. It was the 7 bar. It was right on next to downtown Beirut. It was on the corner there.
Oh, wow.
First Avenue. And then we played the Bitter End. We played the Continental.
Yeah.
And Gerard, because of that song, Cry Little Sister, we had good audiences, and we had record company people there. It was very exciting. And but no record deal, and it was a year, and I was out of money. And then Roger Daltrey pops on the scene, but Gerard says we're going to have a meeting with Roger. Another week goes by, no meeting. Roger's in town. We're going to have a meeting at this place called Manic Moose with the people that were in the band and the other people that Gerard wanted to bring in on the solo record because he owed them a lot of money too, because that's what Gerard did. He still had connections, big connections in the music business. But at that point, at the beginning stage of the great decline of the music business, his connections didn't have the potency they used to have. But he still had them, and people would do tremendous favors for him because he still knew people like Ronnie Vance, president of Geffen. So the third time the meeting is scheduled at Manic Moose Music, where Gerard is headquartered and the band rehearses, Roger Daltrey does show up on time at 11 o'clock.
Wow.
And we're all by the window. There's the second story of it was down like by, what is it, 4th Street and Broadway. So the intern for the Manic Moose Music yelled, here he comes. And we went to the window and he came across the street. He looked he had his Tommy hair and he's very skinny and he's wearing a black leather jacket.
You saw a guy with long blonde hair and
he looked just like Roger Daltrey. I mean, there's no mistake. That is Roger Daltrey. And he's coming into your building and he comes in the building and the three of us, Mark Gray, the keyboard player, the intern and myself, continued to stare at the window in shock at nothing.
Wow.
Like,
sure. That's fucking Tommy right there.
That is Tommy. He still looked like Tommy, which is great. But unfortunately, that morning I had gotten a letter from my ex-girlfriend who broke up with me about 2 months, a month and a half before.
And I gotta interrupt for a second. Okay. Your ex-girlfriend interrupts this novel too many fucking times, man. All right. Okay. I mean, it's like she's in it and she's out of it and she's in it and she's out of it. Fuck that.
I'll get in there. I'll fix that for you, Mike. I'm gonna
all right.
But I got this letter from her breaking up, saying that she loved me and then breaking up with me again in the letter. And I got it the same morning as the Roger Daltrey meeting. And it ripped me to shreds because I really, really loved Vonda Shepard, that soul singer.
Right.
And she ripped me to pieces, ripped me to shreds. And I was so upset again because I got that letter that ended with, I love you, Vonda. But I never want to see you again. But I love you.
And I never want to see you again. That's.
But don't make any mistake. It's over. Love Vonda. Love Vonda. Always love. I love you.
But I will always.
Don't call me. I don't. Don't make any. Anyway, it was devastating, and we were soulmates. We still are. Once soulmates, always soulmates. So Roger's coming up in the elevator. And I was so disgusted with now my whole career depends on this guy and everything it took to get there, to meet him, and seeing him walk across the street. I thought he looked very skinny and scraggly. I thought to myself, I go, that's Roger Daltrey. He looks like Tommy, but this is what my whole career, my whole life comes down to. I said, you know something? I'm in no condition to meet him. So I went to the back storage room down the hallway from the front office of Manic Moose Music, and I laid down on the couch. And I said, I'm not going to, I'm in no condition to meet Roger. And I was never a Who fan anyway. I really wasn't a Who fan.
Wow.
Really?
That's incredible.
Not even the early stuff?
I mean, the Who is part of everyone's soundtrack, but I never bought a Who record. I didn't like Keith Moon's drumming. I thought it was very sloppy growing up. I was more into Chick Corea, and I was into Chick Corea and Steely Dan and great drummers.
Yeah,
Keith Moon
Steely Dan has a song
very
where they
sloppy.
mention
Of course, I've developed a taste for, an acquired taste for Keith Moon drumming, and I really love his drumming at this point. But back then, the Who, everybody loves the Who songs, but I didn't buy any of their records, and it wasn't something I want to buy a record and go practice in my basement to the Who. So Roger's coming up in the elevator, And I'm still wiping tears from my eyes over this letter. And I said, I'm not a Who fan, and I'm in no condition to meet Roger. So I went to the storage room down in the hallway, down the hall, and I laid down on there's a couch in there.
Wow.
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 That's incredible.
Well, before you continue, okay, I want to show everybody Roger Daltrey and the bright, shiny object, okay? And for all people that respect my opinion on things, I got to say that this is one of the best books I've read in years, okay? It's not just about what happened between Roger Daltrey and you, Don, okay? It's also this idea of like what could happen between rock stars and regular people, okay? And Roger was, he came off as like a regular guy,
Yeah.
okay, in a lot of the book, but then he also came off as like a really flaky motherfucker. I hate to say it, all right, but
Well,
there's a part of the book where you became so much part of his family, and that's amazing, okay, but then you became like, you were supposed to be represented by him, and he bailed on you. How do you feel about that?
I'm still, when to get to where I was on a spiritual quest too, because I've at that point in my life, I had a very good friend of mine who became, she was the Eve Branstein. She actually casted the characters for This Is Spinal Tap. And she is a writer, and she was working for Castle Rock. And she knew everybody. And she was the wife of the keyboard player for Van Morrison. And she at one time actually dated Gary Vance. She has a history as Mick Jagger dated her. She knows everybody, has done everything. And I met her at a party, and she saw how much I wanted to make it in music, and she referred me to these books, Siddhartha, what is it, On the Road, or what's the Kerouac one, Road Less Traveled, or
On the Road?
Yeah, Kerouac, and then Václav Havel, Disturbing the Peace. Those books,
Dharma Bums and all that stuff. Yeah,
right. So she put me on this path to as a spiritual quest in really finding myself, and I figured that was the last link to making it in music. So that spiritual quest that I was on was also to be mad at Roger for what happened as it was happening, was against my grain as far as my spiritual development back then. I mean, it was an unorthodox spiritual path. I don't know what my spiritual path would be called. It wasn't Buddhism or Christianity or Judaism. It was like my own brand. And it's kind of in the fiber of the book without being religious or anything, but my own brand. And I couldn't be mad at Roger at the time. But people say to me, well, did you send him a book? And, I didn't, because I'm still conflicted about it, about what happened. Because the book only covers the first year of what happened. It went on for another 5 years. And I wanted to get it all in this book, but I got to page 446 and something, some voice said, "You're done." I went, okay. But I wouldn't say that to this day that I'm mad at him yet, because life takes place and timing of things, in a sense, there is no time, what is time anyway? And he has the book now. So the door is still open for him to fulfill his promises. So I don't want to say, what a jerk he was. He said he was going to do this, and he said he was going to do that. And he never did that. Fuck him. Fuck you.
Let me ask you this. You're disappointed with Roger?
Roger, things like being disappointed with Roger saying, I'm disappointed with the sun. I'm disappointed with the universe. It doesn't work that way with Roger. He is in a human form, but he is totally never loses his godlike status when you hang out with him and do the most mundane things. The book, I think the book, I covered that because you say he's an ordinary guy, but then again, he's always doing things and you never quite get a hold of him. And in real life, to say I'm disappointed with Roger or I'm mad at Roger, he gave me a beautiful gift because he told me, he said, Don, he said, I'm going to make you huge. And, right now I'm on your show. We're in the process of doing that now. It's just that things are all on different timelines, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm not mad at Roger at all. I look forward to seeing him again and laughing with them. He has a great sense of humor. He tells really corny jokes, though, that I never laughed at. And he would tell long jokes, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes that go on and on and on. And everybody else in the room laughs and they're belly aching, laughing. And
you're like, what the hell is this shit?
Yeah, Roger looks at me. And I said, Roger, I'm not good with jokes. I said, don't tell me a joke. I'm not going to laugh. I said, the only joke I laughed at was, I think, what's the strongest thing in the world? What's the strongest thing in the world, you guys?
Me?
Yeah, you guys. What's the strongest thing in the world? Come on.
A hooker and some cocaine.
Some cocaine.
Well, it's a good answer, but it's the answer is P. Even Superman can't hold it. So.
Pain.
I laughed at that when I was like 10, and I think that's the only joke I laughed at. So I wasn't laughing at Roger's joke, which was something about, the maiden was tied to the track, and the engineer saw her tied to the track, and at the last minute he pulled the whistle, and the maiden. I mean, it was like a joke from 1905 or something. So, you wouldn't believe it coming from the coolest sultan of rock and roll, godlike status. And he tells the corniest joke. So then he would tell the whole joke over again.
Oh, no.
And I still wouldn't laugh. And everybody in the room, maybe there would be like Ricky Byrd and Gerard and the people from Abbey Road. I remember this one time we were recording in the Beatles room when we were doing we were doing that part. He came to the studio all peppy and happy, and he had a new joke, and he told the joke, and I didn't laugh, and then he told it again. And then when I didn't laugh again, you should see the faces in the room of the other people.
Well, let's get into some of the people that were with you. Ricky Byrd.
Yeah, Ricky Byrd.
And some others. Okay. I mean, these guys were all big Who fans from back in the day. I get it. Okay. But what would they like to work with? Ricky Byrd, for example.
It's like I did a good description of it in the book because, to this day, you're not going to, I don't have rock and roll accessories and chains and, I'm not a tattoo guy because if I got one tattoo, I'd be covered in them completely. I'm an all or nothing guy. But back then I had long hair, and Ricky Byrd had all the scarves and the chains and the bracelets, the clanking bracelets, and his hair is teased up like.
Yeah, no.
I can't even do it. It's like.
Yeah, the spiky hair.
Yeah.
Not spiky. Spiky would have been cool, yo. He had it teased up like the faces or something. And when he showed up for rehearsal.
Maybe that was an overpriced comb over.
I'm friends with him today on Instagram. It's quite different. Let's put it that way.
It's different. Yeah, it is different.
He's a nice guy, Ricky, but he was never cool enough for me and I was never cool enough for him. But we got along, and he was a friendly guy, and he's very interesting and a great conversationalist. We could when Roger would take us to dinner, me, Roger, Ricky, Gerard, this guy Dave Katz came along. It was there for some reason, but and Tony Vellante, the engineer who did work with Steely Dan and Roger Nichols trained him. you know, the conversations, all those guys are great conversationalists. They love to gab. Ricky is great at talking, great at listening, very entertaining, great company. We had legendary hangs with Roger.
Yeah.
And I really like Ricky a lot. He's a rock and roll guy, and he keeps that pretense about him. I'm a rock and roll guy. And when I messaged, when I was trying to find out some information for the book, and he was very, you know, very short with me. And then after like 3 messages, he wouldn't return any more of my messages, you know, because I don't really have status with him. So he's like, okay, he got enough of my time, you know. He's there. They have to sort of, you know, he's a rock and roll, he's a Hall of Famer. So, you know, I'm not, and he has to always make sure that I know that, and I'm somewhere beneath him. It's that sort of thing. And it was that way back then.
Because of Joan Jett, but okay, go ahead. Yeah,
because of Joan Jett. But Ricky's a very nice guy. And I'm not just saying that to be diplomatically correct, you know. He's a great musician. He's great to play with. I mean, playing the Who songs that we played at Carnegie Hall, he kicked ass on those songs. He's got a great guitar sound.
I know. I know that must have the description in that book. And again,
of the Carnegie. I'll just do this.
I'm gonna put Roger Daltrey and the Bright Shiny Object. The description in the book when you played at Carnegie Hall.
That's fantastic.
Was fantastic.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of the book. And it really, you know, I mean, you were talking about how like you were walking around Carnegie Hall and you ran into all these people. You didn't know who the fuck they were. Okay.
Yeah, because it was a benefit show for City Kids. So it seemed like it really pretty much anybody who was a celebrity and in New York that week or that month was there,
right?
I mean, I played in one show. I played there was 40 celebrities there, you know, you name it, you know, Bruce Willis and you know, Demi Moore and
right. They were all
Harry. I mean, Herbie Hancock, Nile Rogers.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a who's of Hollywood, man.
Right.
Everybody that
was
was
who's who. I mean, I mean, I can't right now. I'm a little brain dead because I was cutting cheese all day. So you know, I'm really glad you guys liked that part because I was saying so a lot of this book is I'm saying, well, you know, all I did was I played one show with Roger at Carnegie Hall. I'm not a guy who went on tour all around the world. I go, do I really have a story here? You know, because my self-esteem got really beat up by this business, you know, the music business.
Dude, let me let me interrupt you right there. Okay. You played Carnegie Hall with Roger Daltrey, the singer of The Who. That's it.
That's it.
Not only that, thank you. Yeah, right. That's what I came to realize. But not only that, was that we were so loud, the sound man had it out for us. And he would not turn down the lights. You know, the house lights that go on after a show, the house lights are on. Yeah. You know, it's just a bland, crappy house lights and the show's over and everybody walks out of the theater. When we came on stage, you know, the great Carnegie Hall with the spotlights and everything dark. It lit up with that crappy house lights on for Roger Daltrey because the sound man was so pissed at us because we were so loud.
and you go into that in detail in the book where he's like, you know, you guys are too fucking loud. You know, it's like come on already.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, but they kept the house lights on, no spotlights, shitty, crappy house lights on. So we were probably maybe the only performers in the history of Carnegie Hall to play with the crappy house lights on because we were being punished.
Wow.
Roger, we had a fight with the sound man, and it was very entertaining. It was quite something. You know, Roger said, "We're not too loud. We're a rock band."
We're a rock band. He didn't want to hear it. He was like, he was done. He didn't want to hear it.
You know what would be funny?
The guy said, if you don't turn down, the sound engineer at Carnegie Hall said, if you don't turn down, he said he was going to shut us down. And Roger said, you do that, you'll have big problems.
Could you imagine?
Really big problems.
Could you imagine if it was Lemmy from
Let
Motorhead?
me from Motorhead. It's too
I think
turn
it
it
was
on?
much more. I thought, yeah, if it was Lemmy from Motorhead, yeah. I mean, but we were cranked up very loud, and then we kept going louder because the place was sold out and it was packed, and we had to turn up even louder for the show because Roger said that when all the people got there, he said they would soak up the sound, and they did.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had no miking on the drums even. So I had to smash those drums. And when we finished, it was so raw and loud. And you know, the people, they truly went nuts. And it might have been one of the rare times that you maybe got to see Roger, like the early days of the Who. And the people went nuts, you know?
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, if it's going to be one show that you were going to do to write about, Roger Daltrey at Carnegie Hall, I said, okay, it was one show. But like you said there, Mike, you know, right on, brother.
Hey, Don, can I tell you something funny?
Yeah, tell me something funny, yo.
Like 2 weeks ago, I went to see Duran Duran, and Chick opened up. It was Nile Rogers playing all the hits. And that shit was as loud as fuck and nobody cared. And the crowd had a great time.
Yeah.
But they had him open up and then fucking Duran Duran. It was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I love Duran Duran. I mean, I that's one of my favorite bands of all time. I'm a little sick of it now.
That's my favorite band.
I'm so sick of all these people now because I want to get my music out there still. I'm not done. You know, things like people I played with that didn't get their fair share yet, you know? So I'm fucking sick of Duran Duran now. I'm sick of Paul McCartney. I'm sick of
Billy Joel.
No, I'm not sick of the Who. I shouldn't have said that. But
no,
I'm
sick of Billy Joel.
Orchestra, and I can't stand the violin player in the Who either. She drives me nuts. Okay? You know, people won't even say that Paul McCartney, you know, can't sing anymore because it's politically incorrect or something.
Man.
He can't. But I love Paul McCartney. Who doesn't love Paul McCartney? But move over. You know,
exactly.
Move
the fuck over. Exactly.
Don, I gotta tell you something. So a friend of mine saw Paul McCartney, right? And then he saw Roger Waters. And he was like, Paul McCartney's show sucked. Roger Waters was so much better. He came with no trills, like dressed like shit. When was it started playing?
Roger Waters is still cool. I still.
My only problem with Roger Waters, what the hell does he got against the Roman Empire? God damn it!
He's got issues.
He got issues.
Paul McCartney looks like somebody's grandmother.
I'm
sorry.
And again, it's he's doing great for 80 years old. I guess he's doing great for 80 years old. But you know, when my dad was 80, my dad played drums and he played 1,500 shows, 1,500 shows around Long Island and New York. He was a drummer. He played club dates and wedding dates, and he played 4 times a week, and he did that for 30 years or so. I can't even count the shows. But he did his last gig when he was like 73, 74. And then when he was 80, he's like, I'm done. He didn't play drums anymore. Yeah. You know, it's like a time when you're done. But look, everybody, Phil Collins is another one. I was sick of Phil Collins back in 1990. I was sick of Phil Collins, you know.
I saw Paul McCartney in 2011 at Yankee Stadium. Okay. And I have to admit, he was fucking great. Okay. He was fucking great. But we're talking 12 years ago already. Okay. You know, and he's still out there. He's like somebody's fucking grandmother at this point. It's like, stop.
You know, it's got to be nice. You're talking about Paul McCartney, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
you have to be nice to him. You have to be nice to him because if you meet him, you know.
John Lennon wrote the best fucking songs. I'm sorry, Don. Okay.
You know what? Fuck John Lennon.
I'm sick of the Beatles. I'm sick of the Beatles.
Elvis.
Yeah, I'm sick of the Beatles too. I'm sick of
them.
I'm sick of Led Zeppelin. I'm sick of them.
Elvis.
I mean, I'm sick of the Foo Fighters most of all.
Fuck the Foo Fighters.
Wait up, guys.
that.
You know what? I gotta give a respect. The kid's drummer, the guy that died, the drummer, his kid. That kid hitting those drums with everything he had.
He was good.
That was incredible, dude. I had to give
all right. Well,
for that.
Wait.
I don't want to offend anybody.
Hold on. Lemmy from Motorhead. That's all you got to say.
I love
I'm not sick of Motorhead. I'm not sick of Motorhead. No way.
No.
I'm just starting to really, really get into Motorhead. He's just his music is so alive and so vital to me. The Motorhead is just getting better to me. So
always better.
Metallica. I'm sick of Metallica.
They're dead.
Fuck Metallica. I'm done with Metallica. Anything.
Motorhead is just getting good now. Just getting good.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sick of Nirvana.
Oh, fuck Nirvana.
No, fuck all that. So
but
tell me.
It's like, so back then I was playing with these guys. I was only 26, getting old though. When you're 26 and you're a young rocker, you hit that 27 point. You're like, I'm not famous yet. I'm an old man at 27, 28. You got to pack it in, and
you never pack it in.
Those guys, Roger was 46 when I met him, 47, and Gerard was 38. Ricky was like 35. And I was playing with all these older guys. To me, when you're 26, 27, and they're 35, going on 40. Like when I played with Dee Dee Ramone, and he was 38.
I know you did.
And they just had a big show in Vegas or somewhere.
I remember saying to my friend, Joe Carroll, who's in the book, I said to Joe, I'm playing with Dee Dee. And he's coming over to my house and rehearsing. I said, but you know how old he is? I go, he's 38 years old, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought this guy was an old guy. I mean, he was walking around with a cane, though, too, because he was on methadone or something.
The last time I saw Dee Dee, he was walking with a walking cane on 3rd Avenue by the Continental. And I saw him and I said, "Hey, brother, what's up?" And he was lumped up. He was lumped up. And
he finally died of some junk. Shit. I mean, he got back on the junk, and he OD'd, right?
In the end, he did, and that's what took him out, and that's fucked up. I feel bad, but he was 38 at that time.
Dude, let me tell you. You
saw him when he was 38 too? You saw him at 38?
Yeah, he was walking with a walking stick.
Yes, that's when I knew him. That's the same walking stick that he would come over and he'd hobble around in my basement with. But as soon as he
I knew him then. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right on.
Hey Don, I gotta tell you something. I worked at Bar None, and Bar None used to be the bar that was like this. It was called something Chase.
3rd Avenue and 12th.
And I
used to go there all the time, but I went there more like in.
You know who I saw there?
Who?
I saw Gigi Allen there, and he sang 3 songs, and then there was shit everywhere. Yep. There was piss and shit flying everywhere. It was the most incredible thing I ever seen.
I was at that show before I knew this motherfucker right here. All right. And
it was shit everywhere.
It was disgusting.
It was disgusting. He took a shit and just started throwing at people like a monkey. It was the worst thing I ever seen in my life. Shit was flying. People were getting his with shit. People were running. It was total chaos, man. It was fucking great. I said, this is rock and roll. This is the East Village.
Yeah, no, I used to hang out there more around like 93, 94 over there. Yeah.
Great.
But, playing with Ricky at UAS was pretty cool. And those guys were all older than me. And I'm like, I thought the record we were working on was, I was playing grunge and punk music.
Damn, grunge.
And then I'm hanging out with all these older guys at Abbey Road in England, like sitting on a couch because I don't know what they had me over there for because I wasn't playing drums. I was supposed to play drums on the record. But that's how we started out this interview. You said, well, how did you meet Roger? I was supposed to play drums on his record. And then that went from drums to percussion. And I brought all my percussion stuff over, what little percussion stuff I had over to Abbey Road in when was that? July of 1991. And the first thing Roger said in the very first session when he walked into the room, he said, "Gerard," he said, "I know the perfect percussion player, Jody Lynn Scott. She's absolutely wonderful." And I felt like the biggest dirtbag, like loser, and so from then on, all I did was sit on a couch and watch. But they went on we recorded for hundreds of hours. We recorded for almost 3 months at Abbey Road. The whole time I was sitting on a couch. My only job was to make Roger tea.
That's crazy. I know.
So,
I read
part of this story and part of things that I want to maybe ask Roger someday, I do hope that he has the book now, and it's very interesting how he got the book finally, because, I didn't feel right sending him and Heather a copy with a long letter. I wrote letters, 3 different letters, and each letter brought me to tears about how I missed them and how, they've been in my dreams and my thoughts and my heart all this time. And, because at one time I was supposed to be their future son-in-law. I was supposed to be their son-in-law. So we went very deep.
You were hooked up with his daughter, right?
Wow.
What?
You were hooked up with his daughter, right?
Yeah. Willow loved me and I loved her. And we were supposed to, they wanted us to get married, and that was pretty much a done deal. And that's a whole other story. That's not in the book. That comes after the book, So I wrote them, this is recently, over the last 3-4 months, I wrote them 3 different letters. And then a friend said to me, she said, "Well, if you can send those letters without any expectations," she said, "because Don," she goes, "those people in that book," she said, "they really hurt you, They really did a job on you," she said, "and you don't want to set yourself up to get hurt again." She goes, "If you can send Roger the book and the letter, Roger and Heather, a book and a letter without any expectations that anything is going to happen," she goes, "send a letter. But if you have any hopes or expectations," she goes, "I wouldn't do it." And I said, "You know something? The letter is all about my hopes and expectations that I can see them again, and we can pick up where we left off and the whole thing." And I said, "The letter is completely opposite. It's riddled with hopes and expectations and love for the Daltrey still,
Wow.
So I didn't send them a book or a letter, and I got a Facebook message from this guy. His name is Trevor. Is it Trevor Denton? Trevor. I hope like I said, my brain is fried because I've been working all day cutting cheese. I think it's Trevor Denton. He's a friend of Roger's, a fishing buddy of Roger's. So he's down at the trout farm. Roger has his lake. He's got his lake, right? Yeah. Now he has a brewery there. He's building a brewery, but he has his lake. And this guy, Trevor, is his fishing buddy for many, many years. And Trevor Facebook messaged me. He said, "If you send me a book," he said, "I will bring it to Roger." Because he said, "I read your book." He said, "I quite enjoyed it, Don." He said, "It's very insightful." Wow. He said, "It's very insightful. I particularly enjoyed, I see how much you went through as a young lad. And, it's very, 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 difficult for you, but it's very, very entertaining book." He goes, "I'm going to bring a book to Roger." So he brought the book to Roger, and he didn't take pictures with Roger with the book. That's not the way this works. People go, "Well, where are all the pictures with you and Roger?" And this whole thing takes place on another level between Roger and myself, just like the way he got the book now. This is the continuation of the story, because the book arrived at the lake house, the pub he has there now in Holmeshurst Manor, to the day or the next day from the first time I was there. So it's kind of mythically speaking, the book I got back to Roger's place 30 years to the day that I first went there, Wow. So Roger has the book, but I still don't know if he's reading it or not.
You know what? You know what's interesting? When you sent me the book and I picked it up, I didn't realize how much information, and I didn't realize how much thing you did with him, which I found fascinating. I was like, wow, this guy was hanging out with Roger from the Who. I'm like geeking out, and like the way you make it seem, like it was nonchalant, like it was nothing. And after reading the book, I felt like, oh, I realized why Don hanged out with him. The guy was a pretty simple, as complicated as well. He was like a pretty easygoing guy, but he just he wanted all eyes on him. He always wanted the attention.
Yeah, he's very theatrical. He's very
Yeah,
animated when he talks, and he's
yeah,
and he talks loud. And no, I don't want that. And but the other times he can be quite brooding and quiet and
yeah.
mysterious. And when he gets quiet and he just stares at you, he looks just like Tommy, because he is Tommy. And what I learned from knowing Roger is that Roger didn't become the character that Pete Townsend wrote about. Pete Townsend wrote about Roger. It's
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody ever realizes that. Did you guys ever see it that way?
No, I never saw it that way until you bring it up. It's pretty
Roger
fascinating.
acts like the character in the movie, in the opera, all the time.
Yeah.
He spaces out and he just stares at you like. I had a conversation. The last conversation I had with him, and I won't get into it because it's too long to get into. But he said to me, we were standing about 5 feet apart, and we were in the office of his manager in New York. And he walked in the door, and I was sitting there, and I didn't even know he was going to show up there. I was up at the office. Richard Flanzer. Oh, that was a real the biggest nightmare period of Roger's career that nobody knows about. Roger barely ever mentions. But I was up at Richard Flanzer's office because I brought him up a demo tape I was working on, and just to see maybe he could help me. This was after things happened or fell through with Roger. But all of a sudden Roger walks in and he goes, "Dawn!" And I stand up and I said, "Roger." And there was a receptionist there kind of in the middle of us. She was to the left, and she was looking at Roger, then to me. And then Roger says, "Dawn, I gave Willow a new sister." And then I looked at him and I didn't say anything. And then he just stood there looking at me, and I stood there looking at him. Because I was very stoned at that point, too. I was smoking pot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was looking at him, and we were both looking at each other. And then he goes like this. He says, "Dawn, you're still going to marry Willow, aren't you?"
Ooh.
And I said, "I don't know. I don't think so, Roger." I said, last time I saw her, I said there were some things she did that really, really hurt my feelings. "You're still going to marry Willow, Dawn." So that was pretty much, that was pretty much one of the last conversations.
That was the last time you saw him?
I saw him one other time after that. About 4 years later, I was driving a yellow taxi. And this is now 1997, and the Who is doing Quadrophenia at the Garden. So I'm driving a yellow taxi. And I see, there's no internet back then, or I don't read newspapers. So I see Quadrophenia on the Madison Square Garden. So I said, "You know something?" I said, "Roger's probably staying at John Paul Mitchell's apartment on 78th Street on the upper west side." So I used to hang out with Roger. Whenever he was in town, you'd go up and hang out with Roger in John Paul Mitchell's penthouse, because John Paul Mitchell was a billionaire then, and he let Roger stay at John Paul Mitchell's penthouse. So that's where Roger stayed. Wow. Maybe to this day still stays there. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I had a fare that took me up to 78, right around the corner from John Paul Mitchell's apartment. And it was maybe about 4:45, 5 o'clock. And in front of John Paul Mitchell's apartment is a black limo. And I pulled my taxi in front of the limo. And I get out and I sit on the back of the car. I sit on the back hood of the taxi. And I said, I'll wait like 10 or 15 minutes. I'll wait for him to come out. 5 minutes. Roger walks out. He walks out. He goes, "Dawn." And then Heather says, "Dawn." She comes over, and Heather comes over and gives me a big hug. And she says to me, she says, The taxi, Don, she goes, it's just going to be another chapter in your book. Just
Oh man.
She never forgot that. So, you asked like, why did I write the book? And it's Heather, that touches my heart. Even when I tell you guys, I have so much love for them, and there's so much in my heart, unfinished business. And it's not that, it's just, it hurts, I'm sad, but I'm optimistic that there's still a connection in their hearts for me, and that, somehow this book will lead to maybe a movie, a Broadway show, and everybody can make some money out of it. And we can all hang out and go to dinner again and celebrate or something like that.
I hope so.
So, if I always say to myself, if what happened in the book happened, then like anything can happen. Once what happened to me in that book happened, I say to myself, well, what isn't possible then? Because all that stuff that happened in the book was impossible. It really was to me. So Roger said, Dawn, are you going to the shows? And, oh, no, Roger says, Dawn, how are you? And I looked at him and I said, I'm surviving, Roger.
Yeah. Wow.
He goes, Dawn, are you going to the shows? And I shrugged my shoulders. And he said, Heather, give him the number to call. Dawn, go to the shows. And then Roger walked off. He was in the limo. And then Heather gave me the number to call. And then I was put on the VIP list. And then I went to 2 or 3 nights of Quadrophenia. And that was really fun, too. And the strangest thing about it was the last Quadrophenia show. And I didn't really watch too much of them. I was hanging out with the keyboard player's girlfriend, this beautiful brunette, the whole time. We had such good conversations. We started talking in the lounge with everybody hanging out. And then we would talk the whole show. We didn't even watch the show. It was like 2 or 3 nights. Each night I would just sit on the couch, sit on the couch with the keyboard player's girlfriend. And one time, the Who was about to go on. So everybody emptied out of the room, went upstairs. Pete and Roger and the band, went upstairs. And for some reason, Pete forgot something in the VIP lounge. And he walked and went over to his guitar case, got something, walked back across the room and stopped. And he looked at me on the couch and he said, "Hi, I'm Pete." So I got up off the couch and I shook his hand. I said, "I'm Don." So, there's a bookend to this. I always thought that maybe the book was going to end when Pete introduces himself to me. But both Roger and Pete, I met Roger by him going to the back storage room, because in the storage room where I laid down on the couch, well, they had their meeting. And then after the meeting, they were listening to songs that Gerard McMann had written that they recorded at Manic Moose Music. This goes back to the very beginning when I met Roger, and I was too upset to meet him, and I laid down on the couch. But from the couch, I was right by the studio room where they were listening to all the songs that they wanted Roger to do on a solo record. And after that meeting, they came out, they went by the storage room door, and the last person to go by was Roger. And he turned and he looked into the storage room, and it's very dark in there. There were no lights on. And I thought to myself, I said, he can't see me back here. It's too dark. And he takes two steps into the storage room and he says, "Hi, I'm Roger." and I'm laying there on the couch. I had the letter of Vonda's letter that broke my heart again on my chest. And I was crying the whole time they were in the meeting. He goes, "What's the matter, Dawn?" I said, I just got a letter from my girlfriend. She broke up with me. And he said, "Keep your chin up, Dawn." He said, there's plenty of fish in the sea.
Wow.
And then he just spins around, walks out,
Wow.
So, the story I always thought was going to start with Roger introducing himself to me. And at the very end, the very last day that I saw Roger in person, Pete Townsend introduced himself to me.
Wow. Amazing.
It's like Lennon says, nothing is real, nothing to get hung about, right?
Yes, 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 exactly.
Kerouac
That's
said
so true.
something like, "Life is just some great fantastical dream." You know,
Wow.
those lines, nothing is real, nothing to get hung about, you know. So this story is not finished. I feel in my heart, especially talking with you guys now, and you guys are magical guys. I'll tell you, I love your interviews. I love your style because you're so, I mean, you guys are the real deal, man. You know
We
everybody
love rock
in
and
the
roll,
scene.
man. You know,
Everybody, your street cred is through the roof, you know, because you guys are the real deal. There's no pretense about you. You love people. You're open-minded. You have such a love for New York City and all the people and things that happen in the city, particularly the music scene for the last 30, 40 years, the things you guys know,
Thank
and the
you.
way you
Thank
love
you. Yes.
people. I really think you're the beginning of a rebirth of it all, you know. So this is
hope so.
part
You've
of
been
the
saying that.
magic. Nothing is real. I'm talking with you guys. This is one of the greatest things I have ever done in my life, you know. Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you to you guys, both
So,
you guys. Rob.
Don, I got to tell you something. The first time I met you, I say, wow, I can't believe this guy was hanging out with Roger Daltrey. And then I met you, and I know why this guy was hanging out with, because
Cool.
you're a great guy. Like, you know, your energy, your passion, like the things you do, and dude, you're a great guy, and I'm hoping you pick up success. I hope they make a movie out of this. I hope they do all kind of stuff. But Don, if I can do it real quick, can we get like a 30-second pitch of why people should buy this and have it on their freaking bookshelf? Because this is a fantastic book. This book is a treat. It's a great read. It's easy. It's like you're reading. It's like you're talking about yourself, but then people can see themselves as you, which is pretty interesting. Not too many people do that.
Well, that's a great pitch right there. I couldn't. The only thing I could add to that, Rob, is that if you know, it's an amazing journey, and everybody gets to go on it. It's not my amazing journey, as you pointed out, Rob. It's everybody's journey. Everybody gets to take this journey. It's all of
Yes.
us, you know, because I know so many people in the music scene that have gone through similar things, just as fantastical. I don't know if that's a word, but just as fantastical and magical,
It's a good
and
word.
wild and crazy. And this is all of our story. All these people that were really the next great wave of the American culture that for some reason something busted, something broke, you know.
Yeah.
And I know we had some bands and some people did still break in the early 90s, yes, but for the most part the culture busted, you know. And now all we're left with is the Foo Fighters.
I hear you, brother.
All right.
I want.
I can't even watch the clip.
So,
anyway. But anyway,
so
that's,
Don,
I don't want to end it on a negative note. But you know, it's interesting. I just have to mention the movie. You mentioned the movie, Rob. A very good friend of mine, Susie. I was telling Mike the other day, Susie Lewis, who created and did 5 seasons of the show Daria.
Yes.
Wow.
The MTV hit show. She's reading the book now and she's freaking out over it. And she's so hard to please. Susie Lewis,
that's amazing.
Creator of Daria, loves the book.
I watch that all the time.
I love Daria.
She said to me, she is a powerful woman, and she said, Don, I'm directing your movie.
Wow, that's a good one.
That's amazing.
I said, sure. I said, you know, but of course, you know. So she has already sent the book to a couple of screenwriters who just got back to her the other day, and they said they were really digging it too.
Screenplay? Does that mean she's going to be writing the screenplay, or are you going to write the screenplay?
No, that's a different form of expertise. You know, that's you would want a screenwriter who has that expertise, like, you know, I have to write the book. A screenwriter is a whole other expertise. So you know,
but they'll take the book and they'll write an adaptation of the book. That's pretty much what they do.
Yes. So Susie has a couple of screenwriters reading it, and they're digging it. You know, making a movie and the odds of that happening and getting money and getting that happen, you know, well, you know, it's like I say to myself, I was hanging out with Heather Daltrey in her kitchen. You know,
Yeah.
if I could get there, I could do anything, right?
Yeah, you can
Right.
do anything.
Right.
Hey, so Don, how can people get in touch with you if they needed to get in touch or send you a plug? Because we know the book is everywhere. Go on Amazon, go in Barnes and Noble. The book is anywhere. Buy the book. It's a
Well,
great
it's
read.
on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I'm too much of a dirtbag to get into Barnes and Noble, and nobody.
Oh, so you're on Amazon.
Self-published writers are still the dirtbags of the we're the enemy to them.
Roger Daltrey and the Bright Shiny Object.
Yeah. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can Facebook Don Henze. I'm on Facebook. I'd love to hear from people who have read the book or who have questions about it. I'm getting a lot of great people writing to me, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that part now of interacting with people who are reading the book and have read the book, and it's really wonderful.
Great book.
Yeah, really
All
appreciate that you guys took the.
Right.
Rob, where are you now? Did you start reading yours yet?
Yeah, I told you I read, so I'm halfway through when I started reading it, but I also jumped around just because I wanted to see some stuff before the
Yeah, because you just got it the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, but I read like 250 pages of it so far.
and I've read the whole thing. It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
You guys are the best, really. I can't say enough about you, and I'm going to. I hope 1 million people watch this just so they get to know more about you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Don, another thing, if you have anything coming up in the future, we'd love to have you again as a guest. If you're doing any music or whatever you're doing, let us know, because you're a fascinating dude.
Well, thanks, man. Coming from you, that means the world to me, buddy. Really does. Really does.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
this one thing leads to another, and things are happening, percolating. I feel it in the spirit of things,
Yes.
And I will definitely keep you guys up on what's going on. You know that.
Definitely, man.
All right, Don. We love you. All right.
Love you guys.
We
Rock
love
and
you,
roll.
man. You're the best.
You take
Yeah,
care.
you
All right.
guys are great.
And remember, people, don't get drunk, get lumped up. We'll see you next time. And hit Don and buy the book, baby. Buy the book. Have a good one, guys.
I'm getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Rossi. I'm getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Rossi. Well, I'm lumped up, but I'm okay. It's gonna get lumped up anyway. You better call back the posse. Just getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Rossi.